Hello and welcome to Inner Noise episode 9. My name is Gabriella Jones and I'm a concert harpist based in London. Today I'm talking about a topic that I think is incredibly important for anyone in the creative industries, and that is how technology can transform the way we approach marketing, finances, as well as the creative process itself without compromising the art we create. Now, this episode was inspired by a conversation I recently listened to on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, where he was speaking with Daniel Priestley. I don't know a lot about Daniel Priestley, and to be honest with you, I haven't been a fan of A Diary of a CEO for a long time, but this episode was recommended to me, and I'm really glad that I listened to it. So if you can bear it, or maybe you're a fan yourself, I will link that episode in the description box below and you can just check out the whole thing because I couldn't possibly quote it all. But points that they did discuss, which I'll be touching on at points during my episode, is the UK's economic landscape, the challenges of innovation within that, how policies can either stifle or encourage growth in emerging industries. And I think that one thing that really stood out to me, just to really, deep dive into this, was that taxes and lack of incentives in the UK are really starting to discourage investment in startups and creative ventures. And I think it's meaning that successful, entrepreneurial and smart people are moving to countries where their money's going to do better, it's going to work for them better, their businesses can grow and they can gain more success. In the episode, they also spoke a lot about how technology is reshaping the global economy and how those who leverage it are racing ahead while those who don't risk being left behind. And it really got me thinking, how does this apply to the arts? I think in other episodes I've made it really clear that I feel that the arts is part of culture, it's part of everybody's identity. And I wondered, with that, in an industry that sometimes feels like it's stuck in the past, but then equally it has to be part of our future because of exactly the things I just said. I wonder, how can artists and creative professionals use technology to not just survive, but to thrive in this digital age? So in today's episode, I'm going to explore exactly that, how technology can help with marketing, financial management, and even streamlining the creative process. I'm going to talk about a little about tools that I use as well. And I think I'm also going to touch on how the UK's economic policies are impacting the art sector and what we can do about it. So whether you're an artist, a creative entrepreneur, or just someone who's curious about the intersection of art and technology, this might be for you. So let's start with marketing. Because let's face it, we all know an artist or a musician or an actor or a creative who is incredible at what they do, but sometimes are not as well known as what they should be because people don't know about it. And therefore it's just really hard to make an impact. And I think this is where technology can be a game changer, and I think it's about making it work for you. So like, take social media for example. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok and YouTube have completely transformed how artists can connect with audiences, their audiences, a growing audience, new audiences. And you know, these days you don't need a record label or a gallery to showcase your work anymore. You can build a global audience right from your phone anywhere in the world. And I think that in itself, if you're not using at least 2 of those platforms, you need to really consider it. And I think really actively using it. And I think coming back to a previous episode that I did about branding and marketing and who we are and our identity as creatives is really important here. That of course, if you're happy to go down a popularity route, then there are so many ways of doing it, and I would say that it's probably easier. But I think to remain really true to who you are, your art, the art you create, who you are as an artist, and anything else, then it can be trickier. But I think it's definitely worth considering your brand and not shy away from it, and think that it can't work for you, because I truly think it can. So yeah, I think it's not just about posting the content, it's also about understanding your audience. And I think this is where AI and data-driven tools come in. And if you have a business account on Instagram, for example, or even YouTube, the analytics are amazing. And I use these actually a lot at the moment, since starting like the London Diaries and all of my like digital content creation in terms of Inner Noise as well, to just assess actually where my audience is coming from, how they're finding me. And it's really, really interesting. I really thought that I would have a majority female audience, and I thought that it would be UK based, but actually the majority of my audience is male, and they are in the US and in Mexico. So it's really interesting actually to gather that information, because I guess then it's up to you how you utilize that. And again, you can literally input that into AI and find out what, or come up with suggestions of how you could utilize that. And I think platforms that can grow your brand, like Patreon and Kickstarter, are also ways of creating money and building a brand while making some kind of revenue as well. I think these tools allow artists to bypass kind of traditional gatekeeping and fund their projects directly through their fans. So yeah, I think it's like a win-win. Artists get the support they need, and the fans feel more connected to the creative process. But again, all of this stuff requires effort. But I think that, I guess the point I will start to get to as well is that actually I think we kind of need to just accept that it isn't enough anymore just to be creating. We have to be thinking about all of these things. I think when our professors at conservatoires were forming their careers, and I always used to hear this phrase of waiting for the phone to ring, but now in this digital age, we receive emails, WhatsApp messages, texts, social media requests. It means we have to be more active and visible across platforms. And I do feel like, I often have to be a content creator, brand manager, and artist all at once. And it can be overwhelming. But I think we need to really understand and embrace the fact that that is the way everything is going. Everything truly is online. I think when I started thinking about this, and thinking about, initially I was listening to that podcast and I did panic, because I thought, actually, I was listening to it in January, when I wasn't feeling great about being in the industry myself. And I was really worried about how the year was going to look, even though I had so much planning and had invested so much time into planning. And I just was thinking, who uses this? Who uses tech? Who uses AI within the arts? And I was also thinking, this is so expensive. No individuals have this money, and it's so hard to get funding anyway. How does this work? And I was thinking, okay, think now, what have you seen artistically that has used AI or any kind of machine learning or tech? And I thought about this exhibition that I'd seen at the Saatchi Gallery a few years ago with Refik, or is it Refik? I don't know. Anadol, and it was like a collaboration with him and Bulgari. And for anyone that doesn't know him, I feel like it is Refik. I'm very bad with these names, you see. This is such a British thing, isn't it? Pronouncing names wrong. I'm saying that, I'm tarring everyone with the same brush, it's just me. He's an award-winning media artist and director who specialises in using AI and machine learning to create immersive, data-driven art installations. So in 2022, Bulgari partnered with him to create an exhibition called Serpenti Metamorphosis, which celebrated the 75th anniversary of Bulgari's iconic Serpenti collection. And it was incredible. It went through the whole process of how he did it. And it was a really stunning example of how machine learning can be used to create art that's both visually incredible and deeply meaningful. So Anadol trained machine learning algorithms over with over, I think, 200 million images of nature, and created these kind of mesmerizing visualizations of an alternative reality. And the artwork depicted the continuous rebirth and evolution of the serpent, a symbol of transformation and renewal. And it was just like this perfect blend of technology and art and storytelling. And there was also something in it, in that they had, so it was not only just this kind of reimagining of the Serpenti, it was also they designed jewellery with this collaboration, and because of the AI and the machine learning, he knew, because of the movement, which stones they should use and how it would shine and sparkle. So it was just like this whole thing. I can't really put it in better words. It was just, not only was it tech, not only was it an art installation that was celebrating something, it was also the jewellery brand creating something based on the knowledge of the machine learning. And I just thought they all kind of tied in together, and it was just really, really interesting. And I think it's just a really good example of how technology can be used to push the boundaries of what's possible in art. It's not about replacing the artist, it's about giving them new tools to explore and express their creativity in ways that maybe were never possible before. And then it made me think about money. It made me think about how much money Bulgari makes, how much their jewellery sells for, how popular the brand is, how popular Anadol is as an artist, and where he has exhibited, and how much fame he's got from that. And it made me really think about money, and how, for maybe an ordinary individual that is possibly interested in this, you may not have the resources. There's so much that comes with energy and cost when it comes to AI that I'm sure we're all aware of, but also tech in general is expensive stuff. Even owning a phone, owning a laptop is an expense. So yeah, let's talk about money. Because let's be honest, financial management is one of the biggest challenges for artists and creative professionals, especially if you are a freelancer. And I think that, technology can help here too. I'm kind of going off topic from something that's a little bit creative here, but I was thinking about things like QuickBooks, where you can pay an annual fee, and they always have offers on at this time of year. And if there are any, I'm actually going to link those, because I personally use QuickBooks. And you can track your expenses, invoicing, and it manages your taxes really, really well and very easily. And then, that gets rid of, it's all on your phone, it's all on your iPad, it's all on your laptop. It's really easily accessible, really easily digestible and understandable. There's loads of super helpful tools on there. And they have a support system as well, like a contact page and everything. And it just gets rid of the annoying accountant. No offense, accountants, but they are really annoying. And these platforms, whether we recognize it or not, they do actually have AI features. And I think for classical musicians, then I was thinking about kind of practice schedules and time management, because time is money. Tonara is a practice schedule kind of platform that can track your progress. It can even like monetize skills, so you can do online lessons. And I think that's a platform worth checking out. I definitely don't know as much as I should when I am suggesting this, but I thought it was a very, very interesting platform. There's also ones called Teachable as well. But I think there's just so many places where we can, sell and exchange things and create passive income. So it could be like selling digital products like sheet music, tutorials, or even masterclasses, or, to be honest, performances as well. Because I think these tools allow you to earn money while you sleep, giving you more time for projects, potentially giving you more income for projects, and also maybe some more financial stability. I think especially if you can come up with digital products that don't require a lot of time to create as well. Hence my Substack. I think on the podcast, I can't remember, this is the Stephen Bartlett, Daniel Priestley one. I can't remember exactly what the statistic was now, and maybe it's not necessarily important, but it was talking about how providing something for free that is of value and having a certain amount of hours of it available online and then monetizing it is actually very helpful to you. I thought that was really interesting. I'm definitely not explaining it well there. Anyway, so I think technology is opening up new opportunities. So funny, as I'm talking about that, I just paused because I got an email from HMRC. So maybe that's a sign. Anyway, so I didn't want to make this all about finances because I guess I'm just putting a few ideas out there, because what I've realized as well through doing all of this digital content and people reaching out to me is how a lot of the stuff that we take for granted in the UK, and particularly I think in London, is not the same in other countries and other places. So what we use and how resourceful we are in the UK and in London is not necessarily the case in even somewhere like Paris or in Geneva, for example. We might assume that that's the case, but it isn't always. So anyway, let's talk about the creative process itself. So I think we all as creatives maybe worry about, will technology replace the art we create? But I think we have to really believe that the magic of creativity still comes from the artist. But what technology can do is make the process smoother and more efficient. For example, I am a big fan of the project management tool Trello, but there's also Asana and Notion. And it really helps me organise my workflow, collaborate with people, and also meet deadlines. So if you're working towards a big project, whether it's an album, a film or an exhibition, these tools can be an absolute lifesaver. I think just keeping track of deadlines, maybe if you need to collaborate with somebody in terms of you are collaborating on a project, you can add them to a board, add them to a workflow. And these are all things that industries like the tech world, corporate companies, they're already using these things, and I feel like we don't use them enough. I'm saying that I still have a paper diary, but listen, bit of both, bit of everything. So I think there's also AI assisted creativity as well, and I'm not talking about AI replacing artists. I think we shouldn't fear asking AI to kind of in a more concise way put across our concepts, or generating some ideas based on something that is already in our head, because sometimes, to be honest, I do get stuck with things where I'm really thinking about it and I can go down quite like an emotional route with something, but I fail to be able to actually put that into necessarily words or into concise ideas that I can then kind of move through. So I think using AI tools like GPT, I always call it GBT and I don't know why. What is that? GBT? Great British Bake Off? I'm joking. Yeah, I think we can use technology to enhance our creativity and not replace it. And I think that, there is just so much to be said in that. I think sometimes people fear it and feel like they are, I guess, being, I don't know, maybe dishonest or kind of being fake, or that then it doesn't feel super authentic. But I think AI works really well if you have fantastic ideas already and you just want somebody to like help you out a little bit, or if you just want to be like, is this rubbish? Is what I'm thinking absolute nonsense? And then it can just clarify and kind of reorganize things. And then you read it back and you think, no, it isn't nonsense, but I do need to think about that. And it's almost like having it's almost, sometimes it's not possible to ask like 1,000,001 colleagues and friends like, oh, what do you think of this idea? Or equally, maybe it's not smart to, because what if someone takes what you're thinking and makes it better? Or what if someone takes what you're thinking and just simply copies it? So it's a really helpful tool, and I do think that people fear it too much. Or maybe I'm being really naive here. Maybe I should start fearing it. Anyway, so we've zoomed in quite a bit. Let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture. Because I think while technology is offering incredible opportunities, the reality is that the UK's economic landscape isn't always supportive of the arts and innovation within the arts. And I think just innovation in general, from what I was listening to this podcast. So Stephen Bartlett and Daniel Priestley discussed high taxes and lack of incentives that I mentioned right at the beginning of this episode for startups and investors. And they were just saying that this really stops growth. And for example, the UK's 15% employment tax has led some entrepreneurs to outsource work abroad, which means that there are fewer opportunities for local talent. So they will outsource work to remote workers because the UK have put on a 15% employment tax. And I think if the UK isn't competitive in terms of tax rates, infrastructure and talent retention, we risk losing a lot of our creative industries to other countries. And I think especially I remember when I was studying, there was such a diverse group of people in my harp class. Coming from Europe, I learned so much because of its diversity. And now I would say that there's probably mostly British students because of Brexit. So you lose that kind of diversity. Or equally, maybe you do have non-British students, but then they might be from a specific economic background, which again totally, gates off this whole kind of student base that could be flowing into the UK. And then, of course, because of the way that the arts worked, a lot of those people that I studied with went back to the country that they had travelled from to study. They went back there to work, or they went to somewhere like Germany, which is obviously booming for classical music in so many ways financially, or it was, at least at the time. I mean, all of this stuff really changes, but I think that coming back to what I was saying about the UK is that when you aren't providing a economic climate for entrepreneurs, business people to own businesses, it's really hard then for sectors like the arts that are always underfunded to boom and grow. So yeah, I think there's a lot of doom and gloom in that, but I guess it's not maybe all doom and gloom. I think we need to be consistently looking not just at tale as old as time, the arts are underfunded. We actually need to be looking at how the underfunding and the issues with other sectors in like the business sector, the corporate world, how that actually in turn impacts us, and who, again, coming back to analytics, and this is another way of using AI, is to find out who our audiences are, who is actually putting money into the arts, who's coming to see us in a concert, who is buying our music, who's downloading our music, because that's really important, because then I think policy affects what we do, but not maybe as directly as what we would easily like to say, which is the arts are just underfunded. It's actually all of this other stuff that really in turn impacts us. And I think it would be really nice to see, having thought about this, tax incentives for startups and reduced barriers for funding, and I think support of digital infrastructure from the government, from the UK government, And I just feel like that could just make a huge difference here. And I think that we can advocate for these changes, but I think we can also consider this when we're voting, consider this when we're consuming content and media around the digital age, and not feel like we're stuck, and try and be part of that conversation, even if it's not directly about us and our industry, because what I'm trying to say is it will affect us. So I've recorded this and it's 27 minutes, which is crazy, but it probably won't be that length, hopefully, when I've finished. But just before I close, I just wanted to give some thoughts and maybe some genuine suggestions, and I will try and link everything that I've mentioned, and there will be a Substack post, so if you want, when I post that, I will also link everything I've spoken about there, so maybe that's a bit more accessible to have a look at some of the suggestions I've put out. But I think that we really can, I just want to just provide a few suggestions just before I close this episode. And I feel that our industry's marketing is often targeted to a demographic from the industrial age and not the digital age. And I think that we could all be considering this when we're marketing ourselves and who we are, again, coming back to who we are as a brand, where we want to go. And that, when I say brand, I do mean as an individual, like who you are, what is your sense of purpose in your field. So for me, okay, I'm a harpist. I feel like I would really like to become more of a collaborator and not be within like a chamber music ensemble and always working with the same people, but more like exploring different avenues and different realms of our industry, and also cross collaboration. And also that I think that aesthetic is very important, and I take great pride in my personal Instagram's aesthetic, and I love super nice places that feel inviting, and I take a lot of interest in like architecture and things like that, and just generally how things are like exhibited and presented. And so I think that for me, I want my digital footprint to reflect those things. So with that being said, and considering what I've said about my kind of personal brand, I wanted to just state a few things that maybe are super obvious, but I think don't be scared of leveraging social media. You don't have to do it in a cringy or tacky way. You can do it in a way that feels good to you, and don't worry about what other people think, because I think if we worry too much about that, it can be really damaging. I think more think about, do you want that on the internet? Is it okay? Is it offensive? And then does it feel like you in 20 years time is going to think, oh, that was okay. That was okay to say. That was okay to post. That's what I would say. Leverage social media. That's a super easy thing that most people are doing, but maybe not doing it well. And it's never too late to just go, you know what, I'm just going to pause on the content creation. I'm going to delete loads of posts. I still have those pictures. I still have those videos, and I'm going to start again. I think consider creating online resources in some way, whether that's courses, whether that's monetized content like literal music, or things that can only be paid for if you're only be accessed if you're subscribed, if somebody is subscribed to you. I think we could start looking at collaborating with digital artists more, and creating performances that are more engaging with digital art, because I think digital art can sometimes feel a little more 2025 in the current time, in the present. I think that using AI for marketing, tools like ChatGPT, see, I did it again, can help you write, really compelling biographies, press releases, grant applications, funding. It can be really, really helpful, and I don't think we should shy away from using it, and definitely use it in a responsible way where you're not just saying, oh, can you write that, and it comes up with any old nonsense that definitely looks like it's been AI created and generated, but actually really try and set time aside to think about who you are, what you want to say, what you're doing, what your project is, whatever that may be, then input it. So really write something yourself, curate it yourself, and specifically ask an AI platform to help you with specific things. I think it can be super, super helpful. And I think also, maybe this is kind of going back in time, but maybe just exploring actually virtual performances. So I don't mean that by necessarily live streaming, but I'm thinking just like kind of mini live sofa sound-esque concert vibes just in your own space and keeping it like pretty real. I think that would be really nice as well. I think that's kind of something to explore, is this virtual side of things. But who knows, maybe, I don't know, maybe that is kind of going back to like COVID times when we were all like, oh my gosh, pay £5 to come to my concert. I think I did one of those and failed. But I tell you who did not fail actually is, and actually she's the person who suggested this episode to me, but it was Olivia Jagers, who's a harpist and a friend of mine. She is at 15 Second Harp on Instagram, and she started Harpy Hour during COVID, and it's definitely still running. But it's like every Friday, I believe. Maybe it isn't weekly now, but she does a harp concert and it's a theme. And I think it's super fun, and it's definitely enjoyed by an awful lot of people. So anyway, I think let's just keep thinking outside of the box, not being too worried, but maybe a little worried to keep us on our toes, and embracing some digital tools that are easily available and accessible, not fear them. So to conclude, and to put it really simply, as artists and creatives, we have the power to embrace these tools and to advocate for change within our own creative communities. And by doing so, we can ensure that the arts continue to thrive in this digital age and this digital economy. So until next time, keep creating, keep innovating, and remember to utilize your social media. Sorry, I couldn't think of a good ending, but enjoy this, and I won't see you. I'll speak a lot next time, maybe not as much as this episode. Anyway, bye.